I am Delbert, a 32-year-old software developer in Austin. For 3 years, I thought Amanda was the one. We shared an apartment that I owned, built a life together, and planned a future. Then one day I borrowed her phone when mine died and discovered texts that shattered everything. Not only was she cheating, but what followed was beyond imagination. Her demands and threats after I ended things left me questioning everything about our relationship and my own judgment. If you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, share where you are watching from, hit that like button, and subscribe as I take you through the most shocking experience of my life. Meeting Amanda felt like one of those movie moments where everything just clicks. I had spent years focusing on my career in software development, saving every penny to buy my own place in Austin. It was nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood, but it was mine, and I was proud of it. I had worked 80-hour weeks for 3 years straight to afford it. That summer evening at my friend Brian's backyard barbecue, I was not looking for a relationship. Still recovering from a breakup the year before, I was content, focusing on my work and the occasional hangout with friends. But then Amanda walked in, Brian's coworker's friend, with this infectious laugh and eyes that seemed to light up the entire yard. We got talking about hiking trails around Austin, and 4 hours flew by like minutes. What impressed me about Amanda was her passion. As a marketing specialist at one of the bigger firms in the city, she talked about her projects with such enthusiasm. We bonded over our shared love for indie films and trying out complicated recipes on weekends. Our first date was at a small Thai restaurant downtown, and by the end of the night, I knew there was something special between us. The first year of our relationship was nothing short of amazing. We explored every hiking trail within 50 miles of Austin. We took cooking classes together and hosted dinner parties for our friends. During a long weekend in New Orleans, I introduced her to my parents, who adored her immediately. My mother later told me she had never seen me so happy. When Amanda suggested moving in together after that first year, I was hesitant. My apartment was my sanctuary, something I had worked hard for. But seeing how excited she was about the idea of building a home together, I agreed. She moved in the following month, bringing a whirlwind of decorative pillows, framed art prints, and kitchen gadgets I never knew existed. I made numerous sacrifices to make our shared space comfortable for her. I renovated the second bedroom into a home office we could both use, following her exact specifications for the design. I adjusted my work hours to align better with hers so we could commute together. When she complained about the noise from the street, I paid for better windows throughout the apartment. Things were good, really good, for another year and a half. We talked about marriage, even looked at rings online a few times. Her family welcomed me at every holiday. We had started a shared savings account for a potential house down payment. All signs pointed to a future together. Then about 6 months ago, Amanda came home bubbling with excitement. She had been offered what she called her dream opportunity at a startup marketing agency. The catch: the pay was significantly lower than her current position, and the benefits were minimal. But she was convinced this was her chance to make a real impact in her field. After discussing it thoroughly, I supported her decision to take the leap. With my stable income, we could manage while she established herself at the new company. Little did I know what would follow. In the months after she started at the startup, subtle changes began to appear. Amanda made a whole new circle of friends from work that she never introduced me to. She started coming home later and later, claiming work events and team bonding sessions. Her phone became a fortress, always face down, always with her password changed from our anniversary to something I did not know. I ignored these red flags, telling myself she was just adapting to a new work culture. But the distance between us grew. Our weekend hikes became rarer. She started criticizing things about me she used to find endearing, like my habit of leaving my coffee mug on the kitchen counter, or how I organized my coding books. Looking back, these were the first cracks in what I thought was an unbreakable bond. The day everything fell apart started like any other. I was working from home, deep into coding a new feature for my company's application. Around noon, my phone died unexpectedly. I had an important call with a client in 15 minutes and needed to check some details in my emails. Amanda was in the shower getting ready for a work lunch, so I asked if I could borrow her phone quickly. She shouted approval from behind the bathroom door. As I opened her email app, a notification banner slid down from the top of the screen. A text message from someone named Jake. "Cannot wait to see you later. Last night was incredible." My stomach dropped. I told myself there must be an explanation. Maybe it was a colleague talking about a successful project. But something inside me needed to know. I tapped on the notification, and what I saw changed everything. Hundreds of messages between Amanda and this Jake person going back 3 months. Intimate conversations, plans for secret meetups, complaints about me, and worse, explicit photos exchanged between them. There were detailed accounts of their time together, including nights when Amanda had told me she was working late or out with girlfriends. I sat there, phone in hand, feeling like someone had punched me in the gut. Amanda walked out of the bathroom, hair wrapped in a towel, and saw me with her phone. The color drained from her face. She knew exactly what I had seen. "What are you doing going through my phone?" she demanded, her voice higher than normal. This was not the reaction of someone wrongfully accused. This was panic. "Who is Jake?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady, despite the earthquake happening inside me. "And why is he saying last night was incredible when you told me you were at a marketing seminar?" Amanda tried denial first. "Jake was just a colleague who was overly friendly. The messages were not what they seemed." But as I scrolled through them in front of her, her story quickly collapsed. She switched tactics, her eyes welling with tears as she claimed it was just a physical thing, meaningless, a mistake she regretted. But the text told a different story. There was emotion there, plans for the future, deep connections that went far beyond a casual fling. When I pointed this out, her demeanor changed entirely. The tears vanished, replaced by a cold defensiveness I had never seen from her before. "Fine. You want the truth? I have been seeing Jake for 3 months. He gets me in ways you never have. You are so emotionally unavailable, Delbert. Always working, always in your head. Jake listens to me, really listens." Each word felt like a shard of glass. I had supported her career change, adjusted my life to fit hers, been her biggest cheerleader. Emotionally unavailable, it was the most unjust accusation she could have thrown at me. The argument that followed was brutal. The full truth emerged in angry bursts. Jake was another marketer at the startup, apparently some kind of creative genius, according to Amanda. They had connected immediately and began an emotional affair that quickly turned physical. She had been contemplating leaving me for weeks but was hesitant because of our history and, as I would soon discover, practical considerations. "So you have been cheating on me in a home that I pay for while you pursue your dream job that barely covers your personal expenses." The irony was not lost on me. Amanda's response floored me. "Jake is perfect for me in every way. He just needs some time to get on his feet financially. He lost his apartment last month because of roommate issues." That was when I realized the full extent of her betrayal. Not only had she cheated, but she had been planning a transition, using me as a financial safety net until her new relationship was stable. I ended our relationship on the spot, telling her she needed to find somewhere else to live. Her reaction was not what I expected. Instead of apologizing or accepting the natural consequences of her actions, she became indignant. "This apartment has been my home for 2 years. I cannot just leave." "You should have thought about that before cheating," I replied, trying to keep my composure. "But this is my apartment. My name is on the deed. You need to leave." What she said next left me speechless. "Actually, I think you should be the one to find somewhere else to stay for a while. Just until Jake finds a job and we can get our own place. It would be the decent thing to do after everything." I thought she was joking. She was not. Amanda genuinely expected me to vacate my own home so that she and her affair partner could live there rent-free until they sorted out their situation. The audacity was stunning. When I refused, she accused me of being selfish and vindictive. Our 3-year relationship had dissolved into something unrecognizable in the span of an afternoon. In the days that followed, living with Amanda became unbearable. She treated me like an inconvenience in my own home, making snide comments about my habits and schedule. She took over the living room, bedroom, and kitchen, leaving me to retreat to my home office most of the time. The woman I had loved for 3 years had transformed into a hostile stranger. Her sense of entitlement grew with each passing day. "I have contributed to this apartment too," she insisted during one heated exchange. "My design choices, my furniture picks, my emotional labor in making this place a home. That counts for something." I pointed out that I had paid the mortgage entirely on my own, covered the utilities, and even funded the renovations she wanted. Her contribution had been selecting colors and items that I paid for. This only angered her further. The situation deteriorated when Amanda started inviting Jake over. The first time I came home from work to find him sitting on my couch drinking my imported beer, I nearly lost it. Amanda introduced him casually, as if bringing your affair partner into the home you share with your ex was completely normal. Jake, a lanky man with a carefully groomed beard and designer glasses, had the audacity to extend his hand for a shake. I ignored it and walked straight to my office. After a week of this torment, I called my friend Thomas, who worked as a paralegal at a local law firm. Over beers at a bar far from my apartment, I laid out the whole situation. Thomas listened with growing disbelief. "You need to formally request she vacate," he advised. "Give her a written notice with 30 days to find new accommodations. That is more than generous given the circumstances." Following his advice, I drafted a formal letter requesting Amanda move out within 30 days. I presented it to her calmly, hoping she would see reason. Her response was to laugh in my face. "You cannot just kick me out. I have tenant rights," she claimed, though she had never signed a lease nor paid rent. "And if you try to force me out, I will make sure you regret it." The threat hung in the air between us. That night, I heard her on the phone with someone angrily describing me as controlling and abusive, neither of which was remotely true. Concerned about what she might do, I installed security cameras in the common areas of the apartment the next day, informing her of their presence as required by law. 2 weeks into this nightmarish situation, I received a letter from someone claiming to be Amanda's legal representation. Upon closer inspection, I discovered it was her cousin, Ethan, a second-year law student who was not yet licensed to practice. The letter detailed a series of outrageous claims. According to this document, Amanda had quit her previous higher-paying job for the benefit of our relationship, supposedly at my urging. Therefore, I was liable for her loss of income during the past 6 months. Additionally, the letter demanded compensation for emotional damages resulting from my sudden termination of the relationship and attempt to render her homeless. It was so absurd I would have laughed if it were not so infuriating. I had supported her career change because she wanted it, not because I had asked for it. The relationship ended because of her infidelity, not on some cruel whim of mine. And the only reason she faced housing insecurity was that she had chosen to cheat on the person providing her housing. The situation began taking a toll on my mental health. I suffered from anxiety and sleepless nights. Friends started taking sides in the conflict, with some believing Amanda's twisted version of events. My parents called daily, worried about my well-being and offering to come stay with me, which I declined to avoid escalating tensions further. The breaking point came when I returned from a rare evening out with supportive friends to find Jake's belongings in my apartment. A suitcase in the corner toiletries in the bathroom clothes, hanging in the closet next to Amanda's. He had effectively moved in without my knowledge or consent. The confrontation that followed revealed even more of Amanda's manipulation. As Jake and I argued in the living room, it became clear that she had been feeding him lies as well. He believed I had agreed to this arrangement. He thought Amanda and I had been in an open relationship that was winding down amicably. He had no idea she had been fired from the startup 2 weeks ago for missing deadlines. Not that she had told me this either. "Man, I had no idea," Jake said, looking genuinely shocked as the truth unraveled. "She told me you were cool with everything, that you were actually moving in with your new girlfriend next month." I did not have a new girlfriend. There was no agreement. Everything Amanda had told him was a fabrication designed to manipulate us both. For the first time, I saw confusion and doubt cross Jake's face as he realized he might not know Amanda as well as he thought. That night, after Jake left to process things, I made a decision. I would not let Amanda's manipulations and entitlement ruin me financially, legally, or emotionally. It was time to fight back with strategy rather than react from hurt. The next morning, I contacted a real attorney, Sofia Garcia, who specialized in property law and tenant disputes. Unlike Amanda's law student, cousin Sofia had 15 years of experience and a no-nonsense approach that I immediately appreciated. "This is unfortunately more common than you might think," she told me during our consultation. "But the good news is that the law is clearly on your side. We just need to document everything properly." Under Sofia's guidance, I began gathering evidence methodically. I collected screenshots of the text messages proving Amanda's infidelity. I organized all property ownership documents and proof of mortgage payments. I compiled records showing I had paid for all utilities and renovations. I even documented Amanda's admission of the affair in texts she had sent to mutual friends, in which she had portrayed Jake as her exciting new love interest rather than the cause of our breakup. Sofia drafted a cease and desist letter, addressing the absurd claims in Ethan's amateur legal threat. It clearly outlined the facts. Amanda had never been on the deed, had never paid rent, had chosen to change jobs without any pressure from me, and had violated our relationship through infidelity. The letter ended with a firm deadline for Amanda to vacate the property or face formal eviction proceedings. When Amanda received the letter, she escalated her campaign against me. She posted vague but damaging statements on social media, suggesting I had been emotionally abusive throughout our relationship. She even contacted my workplace, sending an email to my boss, claiming I had used company resources for personal projects, which was entirely false. I had anticipated this might happen, and had already spoken with my manager Jordan, showing him the evidence of Amanda's affair and subsequent behavior. Jordan, having gone through a difficult divorce himself, was surprisingly understanding. "Take the time you need to handle this," he told me. "Your work has always been exceptional and we trust you. Do not let her damage what you have built here." With my job secure, I proceeded with the formal eviction notice, which was served with police present to ensure there would be no dispute about its delivery. The officers remained neutral, but their presence sent a clear message. This was now a legal matter, not a relationship dispute. Amanda's reaction was to create a public scene, crying and claiming victimhood in front of neighbors. She called mutual friends while the police were still there, giving a real-time, dramatically distorted account of what was happening. But the officers simply confirmed the legal notice had been delivered and left without engaging with her theatrics. In the days that followed, Jake was notably absent. When Amanda called him repeatedly during one of her confrontations with me, he did not pick up. Later, through a mutual acquaintance, I learned he had backed away after discovering Amanda's web of lies and the potential legal consequences of staying involved. The final days before the eviction deadline were tense. Amanda alternated between rage and desperate attempts at reconciliation. One evening, she approached me with what she clearly thought was a generous offer. "I have been thinking about everything," she said, her voice softer than it had been in weeks. "I am willing to forgive you for how you have handled this if you will just let me stay until I find a good place." "No, Jake, just me. We could even try to work things out." The manipulation was so transparent it was almost sad. I maintained the boundary Sophia had advised me to set: no negotiations, no extensions, no reconciliation. The deadline stood. "Amanda, this is not about forgiveness. This is about consequences. You chose to betray our relationship while living in a home I provided. You then tried to manipulate me into leaving my own property and threatened me with baseless legal action. The time for discussion has passed. You need to be out by Friday." On the eviction day, Amanda finally accepted defeat. She packed her personal belongings under the watchful eye of the property manager I had hired to oversee the process. As she carried the last box to her car, she turned to deliver one final barb. "You will regret this, Delbert. No one will ever love you the way I did." It was a hollow threat from someone who had already demonstrated that her version of love included betrayal, lies, and exploitation. As her car pulled away, I felt an immediate wave of relief. My apartment was my own again. The peace that settled over the space was profound, even with the lingering emptiness where her things had been. In the weeks that followed, I focused on reclaiming my space and my peace of mind. I rearranged furniture, painted walls, and replaced items that carried too many memories. Each change made the apartment feel more like mine again, and less like the scene of a painful chapter. Friends who had distanced themselves during the conflict started reaching out, many apologizing for believing Amanda's version of events. I rebuilt these connections carefully, understanding that people can be manipulated, but also learning to value those who had stood by me without question. I started seeing a therapist to address the trust issues that inevitably emerged from the experience. Dr. Wilson helped me understand that what happened was not a reflection of my worth, but of Amanda's character. We worked through the anger and betrayal, focusing on how to carry these lessons forward without letting them harden me. "The goal is not to never trust again," Dr. Wilson explained during one session. "It is to trust wisely, to recognize red flags earlier, and to maintain healthy boundaries in all relationships." I reconnected with hobbies I had neglected during the relationship. I joined a local hiking group, finding joy in the trails. Amanda and I used to walk, now shared with people who appreciated the simple pleasure of nature without drama. I took an advanced programming course. I had been putting off, challenging myself professionally in ways that rebuilt my confidence. A month after the eviction, Sophia called with news that brought final closure to the legal aspect of the ordeal. Amanda's cousin Ethan had withdrawn all claims, admitting in writing that there was no legal basis for any of the demands. As Sophia had predicted, it had been an amateur intimidation tactic that collapsed under professional scrutiny. Through mutual friends, I learned that Jake had a history of moving in with girlfriends when facing financial difficulties. This pattern had played out with at least 2 women before Amanda. She had not been the victim of a charming predator, but had fallen into a dynamic she helped create perhaps without realizing it. Reflecting on our relationship, I recognized red flags I had missed. Amanda's tendency to shift blame, her selective memory about agreements, her subtle put-downs disguised as jokes. These were not new behaviors that emerged with the affair, but had been present all along in smaller forms that I had excused or overlooked. The most valuable lesson from this experience was about boundaries. I had allowed many small boundary violations throughout our relationship, creating a pattern where Amanda felt entitled to more and more. By the end, this escalated to believing she was entitled to my home even after betraying me. Setting and maintaining boundaries is not selfish but essential for healthy relationships. I also learned about the importance of legal protection, even in personal relationships. Having my name solely on the deed to the apartment saved me from what could have been a much more complicated situation. The documentation I maintained proved invaluable when false accusations emerged. This experience changed my approach to relationships fundamentally. I became more attentive to how people handle responsibility, accountability, and respect. I learned to value actions over words, and to recognize that love should never come at the expense of self-respect. The strength I found in standing up for myself despite emotional manipulation was perhaps the most unexpected outcome. There is freedom in refusing to be controlled by someone else's narrative, in holding firm to truth, even when others try to distort it. I do not harbor hatred for Amanda. That would only give her continued power over my emotional state. Instead, I have found a place of understanding without excusing her actions. People who hurt others are often fighting their own battles, but that never makes it acceptable to use others as collateral damage. What experiences have you had with maintaining boundaries in relationships? Have you ever had to stand your ground against manipulation? Share your stories in the comments below. Hit the like button if this resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life experiences, and share this video with someone who might need to hear that standing up for yourself is not just okay, it is necessary. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, your peace of mind is always worth protecting.